Today from the Wise News Network studios, it is Who Gives a Hoot number 12. I'm Rusty Wise.
I'm Mason Beam.
And I'm Grace Smith.
Number 12, it's been a year since we started Who Gives a Hoot. Can you believe that?
Yes, I can. It's been...
Mason's over there saying yes, he can believe it. Since he's had his head in a computer screen for 12 months.
Yeah, sure have.
But it's been a fun 12 months. And we do these segments so we kind of break down what we've been reporting on, and it's kind of an informal segment on how we do things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's fun to talk about and to rehash funny stories that happen while we're out and all that good stuff. And yeah, it's a good time to just get on the mics and hoot a little bit.
Yeah. We're going to start with the EF1 Tornado. And it happened about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it did.
On May 8th. And that was interesting. Very interesting. We lost internet. We were actually running off 2 wires from here to uptown, which is a couple miles. So we were scraping by.
It was crazy. Mason and I, we were out and we were covering another segment that we'll talk about in a little bit. And we're filming in front of a window, and you can literally see through the window right when the tornado starts to, like, okay, everyone got to get inside. Everyone's got to get away from the windows. You can see it, the change happen on camera.
Yeah, if you watch the window in the Doc White segment, you can see in the last couple of minutes of it, it goes from light outside to just looking near like it's nighttime.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We were filming, and all of a sudden the tornado siren goes off. I didn't even know they had tornado sirens anymore. I thought that was a myth, because I've never really experienced a tornado, but it was a heck of an experience, that's for sure.
Yeah, Grace was yelling at me because I kept walking out the door and playing in the tornado.
Yeah, he was.
Well, the roof of the clinic, we stayed in the clinic during it, and the roof of the clinic started leaking at some point during it. There was water dripping through. So there was also a very loud crash before that happened. So I needed to go outside and make sure that there wasn't a tree laying on the roof to make sure that part of the clinic was safe to continue being in.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But then, like, when I had gone out there, when everyone was already outside of the clinic, right when the tornado siren went off, I asked Dr. White, where's Mason? And they were like, oh, he went that way. Just had no idea where.
For my little journey trip where I disappeared on you guys, I walked over to the bridge, over the railroad, because I was trying to get a clear shot of the clouds heading into Cherryville.
Okay.
I couldn't because there wasn't anywhere that was high up. I would have had to go on top of the buildings on Main Street to get a good shot of it.
I wouldn't put it past you to do that.
If I had access, I would have.
Yeah, yeah.
You guys called me, or Grace said, what should we do? I said, just stay where you are. I mean, that was the best thing, because I was watching it. I figured it was just straight line winds. Basically the same thing we went through a year ago. But this was actually categorized as a EF1.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was a busy couple days for us, that's for sure. We were walking around, driving around, taking pictures of I don't think we missed a single house. We took pictures of every house with damage. We took videos of every street that was blocked. You know, a lot of the streets and a lot of the damage that we saw, we were like the first people to see it.
Yes.
So we were taking notes like, tree down on a line this place, tree down on a line that place, because we figured that obviously Public Works had their hands full with all of the very pressing calls. We figured someone should be going around to make sure the less pressing stuff was also being documented, which we did. I think we did a really good job on the storm coverage. We've gotten a lot of compliments, and it was a crazy couple days.
Yeah, we've got a lot of, video and photos that we just didn't put out. But
Yeah.
we have a ton of footage.
Yeah, talking about unreleased photos, I actually, that night, because no one was sure if it was a tornado yet or not, it hadn't been released by any of the national services, I actually went out that night trying to track down where the storm started and everything. I drove out to Lawndale because I knew it happened somewhere in between Pokeville and Lawndale is where the people had claimed they spotted tornado touchdown there. And whenever I was out, and I'll release this one now, put up on the screen, I actually went to Lawndale First Baptist and there was a line of gravestones just laying down. And that was whenever I was like, oh yeah, that was tornado.
Yeah.
With a like massive, had to be 200 or 300-year-old tree laying down beside it too.
Wow. Yeah, a lot of damage, unfortunately, but
No injuries.
no injuries in Cherryville. Very luckily about that. Unfortunately, in Gaston County, there were a couple injuries. There was also, unfortunately, one death.
And a birth.
There was a birth. It was a very eventful storm. Not in a positive way, but I think the thing about these storms and these kinds of occurrences that happen is they do bring the community closer together. Like, one really inspiring thing that we got to witness was everyone coming together to help their neighbors who had been affected by the storm more so than they had. And that was very nice to see. Unfortunate that it had to happen, but nice reason to have neighbors.
Now, in the following days, a lot of it was just people wandering around being nosy. You know how Cherryville people are. But the day before, the day that happened, one of the nicest things was one of the people that we talked to, or a group of people we talked to, their neighbors were out of town and it was flooding around their house. And like I said, it wasn't the homeowners, it was their neighbors. And they're doing everything they could to get the drains unclogged to try and unflood their house for them while they were gone. And that was sweet.
Very sweet. That yard was a state, let me tell you. I mean, we thought it was a sinkhole. We had been told that it was a sinkhole when we drove by. I was like, Mason, we've got to go back to that. That's just a pool in the middle of their yard. And a neighborhood local child told us, oh, there's a sinkhole over there. It wasn't a sinkhole. It was a very badly flooded yard, though.
Yeah. And then also in the same area, I noticed a little bit of backing up the Cherryville water system because there were places where it was spouting up out of the water system. And it was like, so.
Yeah, it's still doing it, I guess, on Westgate Fountain. Is it going?
I did not look at the Westgate Fountain to find out.
Okay.
There were fountains all over the place.
There were. Quite a few of them were spewing water back.
Yeah, I guess it gets in the sewer system, and it good way to flush the sewer system out, I guess.
Right. I will say the city did a really great job restoring power and internet and getting all of the debris out of the way. They were very quick to act. The fire department also opened their doors to families who were in need and sheltered, I think, 10 families, either 10 families or 10 people, and a dog, I heard. So a good response time, really good community coming together to help everybody out.
And that was actually another thing Grace and I got to experience and see firsthand was because of where we were less than a block away from one of the emergency dispatches for Cherryville. And the second the tornado actually started, you could hear them just start going. They were on it during the tornado and immediately.
Yeah. It was very impressive.
Of course, the funniest story from it, though, has to be while we were at the clinic during the tornado, one citizen still showed up for their appointment during the middle of the tornado. The tornado is actively happening, and they showed up for their appointment.
Well, it's dedication.
Don't want a cancellation fee. Not that they do cancellation fees. I'm kidding, but. Yeah.
What are we going to name next May storm? We're going to start naming them.
True.
We'll name them like hurricanes. Because that's 2 Mays in a row we've had bad weather.
It was only a week apart.
I think the weather's getting messed up. I mean, normal is not normal anymore. I mean, there's been a ton of storms this year.
Yeah, there have.
Well, Ann is Rusty's wife, and Ann told me something very cool, or not cool, but interesting about tornadoes. And I haven't fact-checked this, but I trust Ann. She's a very smart woman. She said that if a tornado happens somewhere, in years preceding or following that tornado, it's more likely that you'll get tornadoes and storms like tornadoes around the same area. So even though last year's microburst didn't officially form a tornado, it might have created a path for future tornadoes to form. So if this time next year y'all get a tornado, then it's a pretty...
It could be reoccurring weather patterns. Kind of like the jet stream and kind of like a Nino and El Gato. I don't know. What are they?
El Gato means cat, Rusty.
Okay. Well, El whatever.
You're right the first time. El Nino.
What's the other one?
La Nina and El Nino.
Just call him Bob or Jack or something simple.
That's about what it is.
Okay.
I think it means
Is that
child.
Spanish? Is that
Yeah.
Spanish?
It means El Nino is boy child and La Nina is girl child, if I'm not mistaken.
You're right.
And
You're
why
right.
that name? Okay, another investigation.
Gotta get some meteorologists.
Yeah. If you know, comment below. Cherryville Library did a story. The library has a lot of neat stuff going on over the summer. That was a cool story that you guys did.
Yeah, it was awesome. I love libraries personally, and I had been meaning to get a library card for a long time. So I got my library card from that story and learned a lot about, different outreach programs that not just the Cherryville Library does, but the Gaston County Library System. And one cool thing that I learned is that if you get a library card at your local Gaston County Library branch, you can actually access all of the libraries in the library branch system, which is very cool. They even have a technology library.
Which that has more like 3D printers and stuff. You want to head towards that.
Yeah, isn't that in Lowell or Belmont?
I have to let them watch the video and find out.
Free Wi-Fi in the parking lot, and I guess
Mhm.
through the whole property.
Yeah.
And then my favorite thing about it, which I had no idea about, is that Gaston County has a seed library going on. The way that works is per visit, you can go in there and get 5 different seeds. They've got guides and charts on when the growing season is and what soil conditions and all sorts of other information for those specific plants. So if you're looking for something to do with your kids, a little bit interactive, yeah, you still need to do a little bit of legwork and spend a little bit of money to get like potting soil and a place to start the seedling at. But that would be a very cheap alternative to doing that otherwise. So
Yeah.
if you're wanting to do something like that, go check out the library.
Yeah, grow your own food. Speaking of food, my kids just got back from Europe and they were talking about the food. And that's why I've got the NC State flags, because it was an NC State trip. So I put the flags out for all you NC State lovers. And also they mentioned about the food. And they said they had to come back to the U.S. to get a good pizza. Now, what they meant by that, in Italy, they ate pizzas, but it was all natural. It was all real tomatoes. It was all natural flavorings. And they went through 9 countries over there and came back through Canada. But they were saying that the food was good. It was just not as flavorful as our food.
It's a very different palate. They rely more on fresh ingredients, herbs, and like back to the pizza thing. What an Italian considers a pizza is what we call margarita pizza normally. That's what they would think of if you just blanket said the word pizza. Which, yet again, that's fresh basil, fresh crushed red tomatoes, fresh mozzarella, homemade sourdough. And that's all.
No pepperoni either. They said they didn't have pepperoni. It was more like salami on there.
Yeah.
I think pepperoni must be an American thing.
I'm not sure of the origin of pepperoni.
I'm not exactly sure either, but I know in time that I've spent abroad, it's very similar where if you order a cheese pizza, it's going to come as a margarita. So if you don't like margarita pizza, make sure you specify like shredded cheese. And if you ever ordered like a pepperoni pizza, it would come more as like a Canadian bacon salami type. So that makes sense.
Yeah, they said it's more of a ham looking.
Yeah.
meat.
Yeah. I don't know why that is.
On that side fact, do not get pizza in Japan. It is not good.
Do you know, do they put other toppings on their pizza? Did Winston or Savannah
Yeah, they
mention
had
it?
other toppings, but not like American toppings. Now they started out in London, then they went through Paris. Now they said all the desserts were good
I bet.
and sweet in all the countries, but when it came, like Germany was more of a meat, potatoes.
Mhm.
They didn't see salad or greens till they got to Greece, really.
Yep.
Olive oil, and you don't ask for Thousand Island. They said it was just mainly just oils.
Yeah.
And condiments. We're big on condiments, mustard, ketchup, salad dressings. They're not big on that.
I thought mustard was popular in Germany.
I guess she was talking about down in Greece.
Okay.
Yeah. I know that, like, you know, ketchup you can find pretty easily, but a big condiment that they use across a lot of Europe for French fries and such, mayo. They love to dip their fries in mayo. To me, mayo is more something you put a very thin spread on top of like some bread if you're putting it on a sandwich or a burger. But one of my best friends, Hannah, she actually lived in Germany in high school and said that mayo is like the biggest condiment for dipping over there as opposed to ketchup or mustard.
I think Japan is big too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. They have their Kewpie mayo.
The reason it's so big in Japan is before America introduced mayonnaise, whenever we forced them to open their closed policies.
Speaking of mayonnaise, is it Duke's or Hellman's?
It's Hellman. Wait, Duke's
Which mayonnaise?
Okay, someone tell me, yellow versus blue, which one's
The
which?
yellow is Duke's.
That one.
People will fight you over this.
They will.
It's worse than a lot of burger contests. is the mayonnaise. Now, Southern people sort of like the Dukes, but the Northern people like Hellman's.
Yeah, I don't like sweet mayonnaise. Well, whenever I make homemade mayonnaise, I'll make like a blood orange and balsamic vinegar infused one to use for baking purposes. But like sweet mayonnaise on a sandwich, not really.
Got you. Anyway, that maybe we'll have a contest about who has the best mayonnaise.
Did you say baking?
Yes. You don't know how to bake then, do you, Grace?
I'm not putting mayonnaise in my cupcakes.
That's exactly where the mayonnaise goes.
Ew.
You replace your oil that you put in it with mayonnaise. Because mayonnaise, as I've told you before, is its component is some sort of acid, oil, and eggs. That's all it is. Everything else is just add flavoring. So if you use like like I was saying, use a blood orange infused oil, then you get a sweet balsamic vinegar. It's still technically acidic, even though it's sweet. And then you need room temperature eggs if you're going to do a basic mayonnaise, or if you're going to be fancy with it, you need to separate the egg yolks from the white and then still make them. Who wants me to make a full video explaining how to make mayonnaise? How about that? Instead of me going on this tirade right now, if you want it, put it down in the comments below, and I will make a full video explaining how to make whatever mayonnaise you want. Yeah. And explaining the entire
It'd be
process.
Mason's mayonnaise.
Mason's
yeah, it's delicious.
Mayonnaise.
Mine is so much.
Do you like deviled eggs?
Yeah.
I do too. Some people hate them.
Yeah. Now, as long as I don't like them with sweet cubes in them. Sweet cubes are popular around here. I don't like sweet cubes. It was like today we were at home, folks, and I tasted the pickle by accident. It was sweet, and I was like, what's wrong with this?
Oh, I thought their pickles are good.
Anyway, here we go. We get on food, and we go down this rabbit hole of food. But anyway, Winston, Savannah, Grace, they had a good time. That was their graduation gift from Ann and I, and they had a great time. And they went to a McDonald's, and the McDonald's had plastic cups and plastic containers for the fries. They didn't have a lot of trash, not a whole lot of trash over there. So they're self-sustained. Basically, they don't put a lot of trash in landfills over there.
You know, I actually recently read an article that some American locations are starting to think about switching to that for the in-house dining for McDonald's.
It makes sense because you waste a lot of paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what human are you going to get to actually wash it?
That's
the problem.
That's why everyone in the comments below was saying is that they don't trust a single McDonald's in America to actually wash a French fry cup.
But it makes sense. I mean, we waste a lot of paper in America.
Yeah, we do.
I would incentivize bringing your own cup. If you bring your own cup to get refills, you get a free McNugget. I don't know.
I'm bringing a big gulp and tell them to fill it with French fries.
Ah, that's a smart idea.
They said there are a lot of big Five Guys over there.
Oh, that's
Five
surprising.
Guys?
I didn't know that. Yeah, so there's
That's really crazy.
Anyway, let's move on. We'll talk about food all day. Matt Powers is the new CHS athletic director, Cherryville High School. Did an interview with him. Congratulations, Matt, if you're watching. Well deserved. He had on a tie and a suit, and I asked if he's going to keep it on.
He said no.
Yeah, and we did the graduation too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Matt and the principal invited us to do the live graduation. So if you haven't seen the CHS live graduation, find it on YouTube.
Honestly, we should have filmed the process of putting up our entire setup. That would have been neat for people to see. But
it was hot. It was in the sun. Our equipment was getting hot. We've got some good equipment. Thank goodness we have good equipment, or it would shut down. But yeah, we're going to do more lives. We got a satellite ordered. We're going to actually have a satellite so we can get out to the universe easier.
Which also means next year, whenever another tornado comes through, we won't be out of internet, and I can put video out that day like we did the year before.
Yeah, we're getting a satellite dish so we can get it, not have to rely on wires.
Yeah.
Yeah. And next was the Darrin and Brooke Aldridge benefit concert that they put together for the Shriners up at Woodmill Winery. I went. It was a very good event. They had the wine slushies. Weather was beautiful. Good turnout. Big crowd. Very nice. Very nice. They had, I don't know, several musicians there. Of course, they had Jimmy Fortune. He was the headliner. Then they had Josh Daniel, which got famous because he did a lot of songs during COVID, during the lockdown. And he put out one a day, and it was like 80, 100 continuous days. So maybe more than that, but he kind of got famous by looping instruments and then playing.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And then some of they have a #1 album, Talk of the Town, which they spoke about in a segment. If you haven't seen that segment, they came into the studios, talked to us, Talk of the Town, about their mural that's uptown. It's a #1 album right now.
Yeah.
A little bit of clarification, because it's been fixed since then, but we did have a slight oversight while we were producing the article and the video for that one. Darrin and Brooke did say it correctly in their interview. The final song on that album is called A Million Memories. On their website, I'm not sure if it's been fixed yet or not, but it says,
because I looked at it earlier today. It's still,
it says 1,000,000 miles. So originally, when we published the article, we published it with the song title being 1,000,000 miles, because I cross-referenced the website for that before I told Grace that's what the name was. And that's wrong. It's 1,000,000 memories.
We fixed it though.
Yeah, we did fix it. But if you saw it before that and you can't find the song, that's why.
But the song was written by Vince Gill, and Darrin talks about why it was written in her segment. So get a chance, check it out.
Definitely so.
I have a question. Do you know why the Shriners wear fezzes?
I don't know.
Partially has to do with, I don't want to call it the wrong country.
It's a fraternity, so it's it's just a symbol of
a ceremonial thing.
Yeah, I mean,
the entire culture based around the Shriners is based off of Middle Eastern culture. Interesting. So that's where that comes from.
Do the Freemasons also wear fezzes, or is it just Shriners?
Shriners.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
The Masons have the apron.
Oh, interesting. I honestly don't know a whole lot about
their fraternities, the Masons and the Shriners. Kind of like the Pythians. I mean, there's a lot of organizations similar, but the Shriners, this area, they raise more money than anyone in the country. As far as this district, they were talking about that.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars.
Wow.
Yeah, they give a lot back to kids, children's hospitals.
I know Darrin and Brooke said that in the years they've been doing this show, and they had to take a little break because of COVID, but they've raised over $100,000 for the hospital, which is very impressive.
The hospital that these go towards is the one in Greenville, South Carolina? Okay.
And Andy Leftwich was there, fiddle player, very, very good, 4-time Grammy winner, instrumental winner. Their bass player was Billy Gee, and their banjo player was Daniel Norton. So make sure I get those guys in there. I didn't put them in the article because the pictures I took didn't have them in it.
Did we talk about Jimmy Fortune yet?
He was the headliner.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's very good. It went from a country to a gospel to bluegrass. Just a little bit of everything, a little bit for everyone there.
Yeah.
So a lot of people hadn't seen it in a while. So it was good. And then after that, we had the Tekton Research, which you just spoke about it with Dr. Tommy White. Tell us a little bit about that. It's a research program in Cherryville, North Carolina.
Yes. So Dr. White has brought Tekton Research to Cherryville. The first clinical trial that they're starting is for hyperglycemia?
Hypertriglyceridemia.
Hypertriglyceridemia.
Yeah.
That one's it. Hypertriglyceridemia.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Which that has to do with your thyroid gland producing too many chemicals.
Triglycerides.
Yes. And there are lots of specifications for the study. You can't be on certain medications. You have to lead an active lifestyle and a few other things. But if you do qualify for it, it'd definitely be something to look towards.
Tekton Research as a whole is pretty cool because it's a national company. They have locations in several different states. I believe it's 7 actually. In North Carolina, Cherryville is one of the most recent. The most recent one is in Virginia, but this one is very new. And basically what Tekton hopes to do is bring clinical research into smaller communities where opportunities for clinical research aren't as frequent. And the reason why that's important is because every medication you take comes from clinical research. Every vaccine, every new treatment program, rehab program, it all comes from clinical research. And primarily, clinical research is done in densely populated areas like cities or university campus towns, because that's usually where most of the doctors doing this research is found. However, having research opportunities only in densely populated areas kind of skews the data a little bit because people in small towns might have different genetic makeups, might interact with and experience different side effects from folks living in like Chicago, for example, just based on population and just different genetic factors across the country. And so what Tekton hopes to do is open research facilities with primary care providers who would be like the primary researcher. That's what Dr. White's role in this is. And those researchers run clinical trials in small communities. Like Mason said, this one right now is for hypertriglyceridemia, but what Dr. White said is he wants to focus on common problems like vaccines, the common cold, similar, like not smaller, but more common issues that don't really have solutions that are readily accessible right now, which I think is really cool. And I think that opening up clinical research in small towns is a really important thing.
Yeah, and then another thing that Dr. White mentioned about that is while you do have a large sample size in the other cities, there's still going to be genetic differences and dietary differences and all sorts of other things that happen in a small town versus a large city.
Right.
So it is good to do research on people that are going to be ingesting and intaking all sorts of different things than it is to just focusing on a specific group like that would be found at a university or a large city.
Yeah. I think it's cool too because for a lot of folks, like the first introduction you really got, a lot of people have gotten to clinical research is like when the COVID vaccine was being produced, which was kind of an anomaly. Like there was a really big need for a vaccine to get out there. So the process, like Dr. White was saying in the video, the process was a little bit more sped up than it typically is. Clinical research takes years and years and years to complete. And one thing that I think Tekton is going to do a really good job of in Cherryville and just any small town that it is a part of is I think it's going to show residents of the real process that goes into clinical research. It shows like, okay, not every person in the trial is going to get the drug that is being experimented. Some people are going to get placebos. Some people are going to get the drug. And the reason why that's important is to see if it's working, if it's not working, it's obviously a lot. And I think our segment does a really good job of explaining all of the different intricacies that go into clinical research. So if you're interested in that, you should definitely check it out and read the article.
And then pulling it back to the tornado thing, just snaps for Dr. White for just standing there and bold face, no fear. Change, no fear, just finishing the interview with a tornado happening literally behind him.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah. Dr. White, I don't know. I have a lot of medical anxiety, and it was coming off even before the interview started, but he's a jokester. He makes you feel really calm. Like, he was back there in the tornado when we were all huddled together during the tornado making jokes, and you know, if he's your doctor, you're lucky. He seems like a really good one.
Everybody's getting used to storms. Oh, it's just another tornado.
Yeah.
You know.
We're the new Oklahoma.
A lot of people just sat on their front porch and watched it.
Yeah.
Speaking of health in the U.S., the kids were telling me that over in Europe, they noticed most everyone was not obese. They were normal weight, and the only obese people they really saw were the tourists.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells me that our food in the U.S. is not very healthy.
It's not.
And it's controlled by the Food and Drug Administration, FDA. So are they feeding this food so they can supply us these drugs? I mean, you know, what would the average lifespan be of an American if we didn't have drugs? 50?
Something like that.
So we're prolonging life. We're eating bad, but we're prolonging life by taking the drugs to make us live longer.
That in turn ends up with us living to an age where we're kind of decrepit. Nothing gets old, people. I'm just fact of life. Your body's going to go downhill.
And that's a good thing if you live long enough.
It is, but you're also going to make it to the age where they can get you for the larger medical expenses. Because if you die at 50, then, you know, it's just over.
Okay, so they're wanting us to live longer so they can make more money off of us.
Yes.
Okay, it makes sense.
Well, what's the life expectancy in like these European countries? Is it bigger or smaller?
You know, I don't know. There are blue areas, blue zones they call, and I think somewhere in Greece there's one. There's one in Southern California and some other parts of the world, and it's found that a lot of them drink wine. They eat nuts and berries, and there's certain diets that blue zones eat.
Yes.
That's something they drank wine and beer and water over there, and the wine and the beer was made because the water was bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it used to be they couldn't even drink the water, so that's why I guess back in biblical times they drank wine because the water was bad.
Yes, and another thing about the older beers and wines is that they initially were not as alcoholic as we think of today. Whenever we think beer and wine, they're extremely low concentration of alcohol. It was literally just enough to self-sanitize. And then back to the FDA point on this, if you really want to get into the bushes, look at what all Europe disallows and the America allows us to put in food.
Yeah, like Doritos are banned in Europe. They
Red
have
40.
them, but
Red 40.
they can't put all the ingredients.
Yeah, they can't make them red.
I think that's why our food is so flavorful because of all the chemicals in them.
Mm-hmm.
MSG.
Well, U.S. has a very, very big stigma against MSG.
Yeah.
And we don't use it in a lot of things. And then also, if you see it, a lot of times they won't just list as MSG. They'll list the full name, monosodium glutamate, because a lot of people don't know what that means. But
like Mexican food tastes better here. I mean, I've got some employees that you know were from Mexico, and they say they use a lot of spices, but it's more bland in Mexico. And they said, "Oh, food here no good." It's not as good as Mexico because we Americanize it.
yes, almost every bit of food, like Mexican food's actually Tex-Mex. Asian is so blended that it's not even funny. The most realistic Asian food you're going to get in America is going to have fish sauce in it. A lot of Asian food uses fermented ingredients. Americans are not a big fan of fermented ingredients. You say fermented, and we're like, why did the food get put in mold?
Why do we eat cheese? I mean,
do we want to talk about the cheese caves? The government cheese caves?
No.
It's a thing that exists.
My goodness.
What? A cheese cave?
Yes. I'm going to teach you more things.
We get into food and we get down these rabbit holes. Anyway, moving on. Camp Centurion. That is on Dallas Cherryville Highway, right off Dallas Cherryville Highway.
Yes.
You guys went there. That was a good piece.
Thank you.
It was.
Yeah.
If you missed all three of the segments on it. Here's a little overview of what Camp Centurion is. So it is a 8-bedroom house. Well, it's not 8 bedrooms, but they have 8 spaces to stay. Where if a veteran is facing homelessness or trying to recover from a drug addiction, and yes, recover, not in the process of being on the drugs, because you do have to
submit a drug test,
a clean drug test to be
Yes.
there. But that being said, they're also not type people that if you go in and you don't pass a clean drug test, they're not just going to kick you on the door. They're going to try and find the correct program for you and get you ready to be brought to Camp Centurion. It's a year-long program. Generally, they are allowed to change it if they feel you need more time. And what they do in the meantime while you're living there is the first month is kind of get you back on your feet, get you used to having an actual living situation. Then by the end of the first month, they expect you to be employed. They don't care if you're a McDonald's cashier or a Walmart greeter. They should expect you to be employed. After you get employed, they'll talk about advancing your position, trying to find you a better job that suits you or something you might actually want to look towards. But the entirety of the time, what they do is they take a little bit of money off the top and they put it into a savings fund for the veteran that's staying there. And by the end of it, they should have somewhere around $9,000 to $12,000 to put forward towards moving out, getting an apartment, getting
First
furniture.
and last month's rent, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Transitional housing program. It's honestly, it was a really great segment to learn about Camp Centurion because the house has been finished getting constructed at least somewhat recently, like within the last year or so. Kenneth Hefner, he has been the directors for about a year. I believe he's moving on to be a board member and then take on a director role in another position. But he basically explained that their goal is to help veterans who have been through hardship, homelessness, and to get them on their feet. And they do that through quite a few different means. Another big thing is like instilling responsibility by like treating the home as a home. It's a very lovely home. I mean, there's a beautiful kitchen, beautiful yard. The bedrooms are really well kept, really neat. And that's because all of the veterans who live there, they have daily chores. And it's basically, like Mason said, about reintroducing folks like veterans who've been through hardship back into society so that they can be productive members and not suffering from addiction and mental illness. And he talked a lot about co-occurring disorders, like PTSD is very commonly co-occurring with substance abuse disorder in homeless veterans.
And then they also, the last event that we attended with them was the Veteran Stand Down event. And that was really nice. They brought in a bunch of different community members that own businesses that kind of lean towards supporting veterans, whether it's directly or not, because they had like Mission 22, which that is a agency that supports veteran suicide awareness and PTSD awareness. Then they also had things like, what was the dog? Pause
HQ.
Pause HQ, which you wouldn't typically think is related to veterans, but he does a lot of charity work in that direction.
Yeah, they partner with an organization that's dedicated to providing service animals for veterans with PTSD. Pause HQ also sells like pet food and pet treats. And they do a lot of really good work partnering with organizations that help veterans and a lot of really good advocacy work.
And then another group that was there, and you guys are going to think this was staged or rigged or something, is Triple H's Barbershop out of Dallas. And at the event...
Rigged. It's rigged.
I was just doing my rounds, talking to all the vendors, getting some information, and I happened to put my name in the raffle for a free makeover, and I won today. I won that.
comment down below what you think Mason should do with his hair.
Well, it's a facial. It's just
Neck
a
and shoulder
cleansing.
massage.
Oh, a massage.
Yeah.
They're gonna cut all your hair off.
And if I had a beard, they'd do something about it. I might wait 3 weeks and let them style a beard.
Grow it out.
But
Sounds nice.
it does sound nice. But I've also not been in a barber shop for 15 years. Because I typically don't trust people to touch my hair. The last time
If I was asleep in a chair and you wind up with a buzz cut,
nah,
that would not be what.
I think you should get a bob.
Oh, we went from PG to almost to an R.
Oh, heck no.
Anyway,
uncut.
Congratulations on your makeover.
They're not cut. I'm nervous.
Anyways, that organization's really cool because they kind of help give cuts to veterans and to folks who are in need of makeovers themselves. And so I think that it's a really cool organization. All of the organizations there are really dedicated to helping veterans. I mean, there was even a representative from Blue Cross Blue Shield who was talking about plans that they have specifically for veterans. And it was really nice. Also, we got to talk to one of the founders who was there, Bud Strope, and he explained that Camp Centurion was founded over a cup of coffee. You know, all of the veterans there's 3 of the veterans who started it, and they all got together and they were all talking about how they wish there was an organization that helped with making sure veterans could get clean if they were in need of getting clean from substance abuse disorder. They wish that there was an organization that also helped them find jobs and also helped them connect with God, because Bud Strope, he has a ministry for veterans specifically, and that really helped him with his own PTSD. And so we're like, oh, well, we just laid out the plans for an organization that would do all of the things that we're each interested in. Let's just move forward and get this thing started. And then Camp Centurion was born. The biggest thing they needed was a house. And the house, like I said, it's a beautiful home, but before it was the beautiful home that it is now, it was condemned. And so Greg Dimmer, he is a contractor, and he came in and helped them build it up. He's also the contractor who's heading the demolition and rebuilding project at Donald Surratt's house from the Purple Heart Homes segment that we did. And we got an update on that.
Yeah,
it looks great. It looks fantastic.
And if you want to watch the video of them tearing the house down, we put it up a few days ago. So go search for it on YouTube on our channel, and you'll see the house being torn down.
That's just 12 straight minutes of a bulldozer going at a house. So have fun with it.
We had fun watching it while we were there, so it was cool. And they said they should invite us back to see the house once it's all constructed. And from what we saw, the foundation, it looks great. I can't believe that they've put that together in less than 2 months, you know?
Yeah.
Then moving on down the road was Lavender Farms.
Yep. That would be the Dallas Lavender Lane Farms.
Yep.
That's the correct order of those words?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Where the goat was sitting in the chair.
I love that goat. I've never seen a goat choose to just sit in a chair before. It was amazing. I would have spent all day just sitting there with the goat, but I have things to do.
It was a really fun time. Mark Newton, he's the man who owns it and puts on the festivals. Before we get into our fun time, we can say there were 2 festivals that he was talking about. The Lavender Hippie Days Festival past the weekend of June 1st, but there is another one coming up called Bloom Fest, and that's the weekend of June 15th. Check it out. It should be a really good time.
And I think the Bloom Fest is a little bit more oriented towards younger audiences. It's like the bubble show and stuff are returning. So good for the kids.
You get to cut lavender. You get to see magicians and all of these really fun different events that they have coming up for that. And the property is beautiful. We got to see a tour of it in a very action-packed golf cart ride throughout the property. I didn't expect to go 4-wheeling when I came into work that day, but I'm happy that I did because it was fun. Mark took us on a tour of his property through a jeeping range that he has set up. If you have a Jeep and you need a local trail, if you reach out to Mark, he would totally let you come on and drive through it. And it was a really fun time.
Yeah, we were not specifically warned what we were doing. Me and Grace sitting there in the golf cart like, yeah, we're going to go see the rest of the farm. And all of a sudden, the hill starts going like this.
Oh my God. His dog was running beside us, like barking at the wheels of the car. And I kept getting so scared we were going to run into the dog. Obviously, he's done that before, so he knew not to hit his dog, of course. But I was sitting there like, this is so fun. Yay, having such a good time.
And I would have taken B-roll of what was happening, but I had one hand on the handle holding on for dear life, and the other hand was on the rig. And I'm like, I cannot let the rig fall sideways into the mud pit.
Yeah, but it was so fun. That property is really nice. They've got a huge lake too, which is cool. They also do wedding venues. They do parties. They do, you can go check out the Lavender store when it's open on the weekends. And yeah, it was ultimately just a really great time.
That's in Dallas, North Carolina.
Yes.
Yeah, Dallas, NC. And really fun time. Mark is a really cool guy. He'll give you some really good conversation and a really fun time at the.
And there's also a petting zoo.
Oh yeah, there is a petting zoo. They've got a Highland cow, and they've got some donkeys and some goats. Obviously the dogs. Oh, and pigs. The pigs aren't necessarily a part of the petting zoo. I don't think, because they're more free roam. They were walking around.
Maybe they're for breakfast.
There was some up front out at the actual Lavender Farm, and then there were actually like 6 or 7 of them towards the back. They were all underneath a deck hiding from the sun that day.
Yeah. It was really hot when we went, but.
Well, moving back into Cherryville, we've been to a couple meetings, and one of the hot topics, I guess, was the cluster homes. And there's quite a discussion in Cherryville about the cluster homes. A lot of people for it, a lot of people against it. So doing a little investigating on that, and we were told that we posted the wrong plat that was voted on by city council. We didn't know it. So we did a little investigating and found that it was the wrong plat that they voted on. But instead of fixing it, they put it in the minutes and approved the minutes with the wrong plat.
Yes.
And technically what was in the public documents was actually a site map, not a plat. And they were voting on the plat.
Yes.
So we found that, and during our investigation, Grace has been working on it for weeks. We found that the original developer has been suspended by the state, and that was interesting. And so the more we dug on the story, the worse it got. So I don't even know how to explain it. By the time you see this, the article would be out, and it was quite lengthy. We shortened it down. And so if you don't understand it, let us know. But it is a little confusing, so to speak. But basically, they didn't vote on what was in the public documents. And then the developer that originally pitched the development has been suspended by the state, and he still owns half the land that the state's got a suspension on. So phase 2, if that goes over it, all this has to be cleaned up.
Yeah, it's like Rusty said, it's a little bit confusing, but to give a very brief timeline of just like the facts we found, we noticed that we posted the plat to social media. We went in and did a public information request, and we were told that what we posted was not the right plat. This confused us because we posted what was in the agenda packet, and we get an agenda packet before every city council meeting a couple days before so that we can review what they're going to be talking about. The agenda packet informs the meeting. And basically, we went in, we reviewed the public information request, and we saw the actual official final plat that you can now find on the Gaston County GIS. It has about 80 homes in it. And, we were kind of confused as to why, if they had the final plat and they had an official final plat that has been sent to Gaston County, well, why doesn't that plat go in the agenda packet? And what we discovered is that the city council members were each given a physical copy of the actual official final plat in their mailbox about a week before the plat was voted on. And then the day of, when Mr. Richard Elam had a digital copy sent over to him from Meritage Homes, they were all sent a digital copy of this plat. However, what they said is that that copy wasn't put in the agenda packet because they didn't have a digital copy of the plat when Miss Paige Green was sending out the agenda packet. And so it seems like, you know, all of the city council members reviewed what was actually going to be the final plat. They had that in their head. They had that material in their hands because they were reviewing it. And that's what they all voted on. The issue is that that's not what was in public record at the time. And we've consulted with quite a few people. You know, there have been, you know, multiple attorneys, not for litigation's sake, just for like, you know, talking to them and making sure we were on to something and we were correct in what we were publishing. Talked to a planner, gotten in touch with quite a few different reliable sources, and they all told us, you know, the facts that you have are right, and you can go forward with publishing them in, you know, whatever way you want to, as long as it's accurate.
Well, to fix the issue, all they had to do was enter the proper plat in the minutes
for May.
Yeah, and then approve it, and then they would approve the correct plat.
Right.
Well, it's actually the minutes for the April 8th meeting. It's just they review and approve the minutes from the last meeting and the next meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the biggest issue there is just...
But you can change minutes, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, that's the wrong name. That's the wrong plat. Please enter this. This is what, you know, you can fix the minutes.
Yes.
That's the whole purpose of that process.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The biggest thing is just making sure that public record reflects what was discussed in the meeting. And although technically all of that is public record, anyone can go in and ask, hey, Richard, can I come in and look at the Calico Creek information request? And he'll let you. But a lot of people don't necessarily know that that's a right that they have. And so with the agenda packets, which is also public record, it's important to make sure that information aligns with what's being discussed. None of this was done intentionally. Like, it very much seems like a mistake.
It was just a mistake, but still that mistake down the road, I mean, there could be litigation years down the road because it wasn't done properly. It could happen, and I think a video screen in city council meetings would save a lot of problems.
And like I've discussed with you before, I know it used to be back in the day, they would need a projector or something major. Now you can literally just cast to a TV from a laptop. It doesn't have to be anything major.
But as far as public documents, you know, the public really doesn't see what they're voting on. No. They have no way of seeing. I've been to other public entities, and they usually put things up on the screen so the general public knows what they're talking about.
Yes.
It helps out a lot.
And currently, if you do want to see what the Cherryville City Council is looking at, you can request that from Paige before the meeting and get the same agenda packet that we do. That is public information. You're allowed to get that.
Yeah.
But it would be good if it was just already available during the meeting for everyone to see. I'm
a proponent of government putting all documents online.
Mm-hmm.
Redact personal information, but go ahead and put it online. It'd save a lot of problems down the road.
Yeah.
That way the public and the taxpayer and the citizens know exactly what they're voting on. Because I don't know, people ask me, what does the development look like? Most people didn't know because it never was out in the public much.
Yeah. I think the only time the plat was really shown, it was the site plan for the entire site, was shown back when Alec was still our zoning director.
2022.
Yeah. I think that's really the last time it's been shown before city council.
Yeah. The site plan is just generic. The plat is what's recorded at the courthouse.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
now they've changed that to where the city council doesn't have to vote on that. Now,
that makes sense too. With those ordinance changes, because, the city council, they're very well-informed individuals, but they're not planners. So if a city council person who's not a planner is looking at a plat, I feel like having the plat be approved by the planning and zoning board, whose official job it is to make sure everything is right, I think that makes it more streamlined, that makes it make sense, and that also makes it so that situations like this, where something might accidentally be included in public record that's not officially what's being voted on, you know, it helps to make sure stuff like that doesn't happen.
Yes.
Yeah. So read the article that's out. You may learn something. There'll be pictures and there's all kinds of stuff in there.
And then also from the city council meetings, this is just sort of a quick PSA from me. They've changed from the city ordinances. One of the most major ones is what you're allowed to do with your fences now. If you are living inside the city of Cherryville and you're planning on putting up a dog lot or a fence for some reason, it can no longer come past the front of your house, and it can no longer be above 6 feet tall. So just keep that in mind. Can't come past the front corner of your house. Can't be above 6 feet tall.
Isn't that just for front yard fences?
Yeah, you can have the backyard, but
Yeah.
I think the front yard is what he's talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you have any questions, the best thing to do is go to City Hall and ask, is this okay? Because whether it's an outbuilding, fence, anything you have done, just ask. Because don't do it because they can come back later and make you do something different. It costs you a lot of money.
And don't worry if you already have something you were grandfathered in. You're good.
And moving on, we did a story about the ABC sales, which are up in Cherryville. That was a good article about Alan Fraley, the manager. They got a good operation going, sounds like, down there. And Grace spent some time investigating that. It wasn't really an investigation, but just, it was a story on why is the ABC store doing well.
Yeah. Yeah, and Cherryville's doing really well. Our Facebook comments have been really funny about this piece, but just to give you a synopsis of the article and the reasons why the ABC store is doing well is Alan Fraley is doing a really great job as the manager. Obviously he learned from the late Terry Fisher, who passed away. He was the manager before Alan and taught him a lot about what he knows. And Alan has taken that and ran with it. Purchasing stock that he knows his customers will enjoy, and also taking feedback from people like, hey, what would you like to see on the shelves? If there's something that you do like and you're a frequent customer of the Cherryville ABC store, there's a good chance that Alan remembers you and sees you come in, and don't be shy to have a conversation with him because he's a really, really well-organized and thoughtful person. I'd say that's what I got from talking to him, and cares a lot about the community. We talked in depth about the pros and cons of the ABC system, and he's a major proponent because it controls alcohol in a way that benefits the community. Even across the border in South Carolina, you can go into Red Dot stores, grocery stores, and purchase liquor from, your grocery store, which,
well,
has
they call them Red Dot stores.
Right.
Yeah, the wine is, but they call them Red Dot stores.
Right.
They may be a little bit more loosely regulated.
Yeah.
I think each store can buy whatever they want.
Yeah.
Whereas the ABC in North Carolina, they're kind of restricted what they can buy. I think they swap cases, or if something's not selling in this store, they can move it to another store.
Yeah. He gave me a good example of a couple months ago, Cherryville ABC ran out of, what was it, the Jim Beam half gallons? Some kind of liquor that Lincolnton had, and so they gave a little swap. And then when Alan got a shipment of his alcohol for the next month, he just gave them the bottles that they had loaned, and that's really nice. I think that something interesting I learned is a lot of the ABC's funds have to go back into law enforcement, have to go into charity, and then also goes to the city. So the better the ABC store performs, the more funds your city will have to, do stuff like pave roads or buy Christmas lights or anything really that is needed. That money goes into the general fund. So it's, yeah.
And we learned if a restaurant has to sell, if they sell alcohol, they have to sell 30% food.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You just can't sell just alcohol. you have to have 30% in food sales.
Yes.
I know.
How many people did we ask that did not know that? I mean, a dozen, and we finally figured it out.
Yeah.
I thought, and maybe if somebody's out there, I thought when they passed liquor by the drink in Cherryville, they restricted it even heavier, like 40 or 50%, but maybe they didn't. I don't know.
And whenever I was in the ABC store talking to Alan myself, I did ask him, this isn't on the books question, but I did ask him about that. And he said he wasn't 100% sure, but he was pretty positive that the ABC board is the final say-so in that. So even if the city did pass an ordinance, it might not technically be.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I just knew you had there's a certain ratio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gaston County says 30%, which is what they all abide by. I know quite a few college bars that perhaps don't. So,
Portofino's. Where's it closed now?
yeah, that's been closed for a long time.
Okay.
And speaking of food, the Lotta Burger contest, which they're still arguing over it on social media, who has the better one. But it was straight up. It was an accurate contest.
Yep.
And the Shake Shop won. You know, the Shake Shop won by almost 50%.
Yes.
And there was a second and third and fourth and fifth, but we're not going to release that. We're just going to release the winner, and we may have another one.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people were voting for Max. Some people were voting for Blacks. So if you like your favorite Lotta Burger, go eat it, regardless of where it is. There's 8 good places in Cherryville.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they'll get ice cream one day. The Shake Shop, that's the biggest thing. Why is it called the Shake Shop if they don't have shakes? But it is what it is. It's still successful.
Yep.
They shake up the community with their Lotta burgers.
A lot of buggers.
And I guess one of the most distinct thing about Cherryville burgers is everyone puts white mayonnaise slaw. That's kind of a Cherryville thing, or this area.
Yeah.
You get outside this area, people don't do that. So back to your mayonnaise.
I bet you a slaw made out of my homemade mayonnaise. I've already messed up today. Is gonna beat anything.
Yeah, okay.
I bet.
Okay.
I'll say this. I had never really heard of white slaw until I moved to the Carolinas. I'm not a big coleslaw girl myself. I don't like coleslaw. I don't love mayonnaise. Don't like sauerkraut.
Love sauerkraut.
I just don't like a big slab of lettuce where you're having to fight it to eat your burger. You know what I'm talking about. And then the tomato slides off, and then you're fighting the burger.
See, I hate lettuce, so.
Do you like slaw?
Is slaw lettuce?
So you don't like greens at all?
No, I like spinach. I like arugula. I like kale.
Oh, okay.
A kale-based slaw would be really good. I don't like cabbage.
Kale's like eating shoe leather or something.
I love kale.
Here we go. We're back on food. I mean, we can't stay away from it.
Next who gives a hoot is just all food, guys.
It's going to be the Food Network. And also, this will be Grace's last Who Gives a Hoot. She's moving on to get her master's degree, and I'll let her tell a little bit more about that.
Yes. So this happened somewhat recently where I accepted a position as a graduate student at USF in Tampa. And I'm very excited about it. You know, I'm, of course, very hurt that I have to move on and, you know, move on with my career and trying to put, you know, different things in order to make me a better communications professional. I've learned a lot in this job, a lot more than I honestly ever expected, because you do learn a lot more in the field than you do in a classroom setting. But I feel like the stuff that I've learned on the job so far could be supplemented with more knowledge from a classroom setting. And seeing how local news has kind of devolved in small communities has really inspired me to want to go forward and see if we can find a solution. Because even since I've been here, obviously the Wise News Network is growing and being successful more and more each day. But unfortunately, we all but lost the Cherryville Eagle. which is an institution of over 100 years. And yes, it's being kept up by the Lincoln Times, and they're doing a great job. But I feel like we're just consistently running into issues of local newspapers closing down, which Rusty was talking with the WBTV affiliate. Is it WBTV?
Or NBC,
Yeah.
They were talking about how even the networks are noticing that, when the newspapers go away, it makes their job harder. And they would love to cover the local news, but they just don't have the hours in a day to do it.
Right.
And so there's become news deserts out here.
Yeah.
A lot of communities that have no voice, whether it be for organizations or political or government.
Yeah.
There's just no outlet other than people doing their own thing on social media, which a lot of times is not correct.
Yeah. And I think that it's really important that the bright minds of younger generations kind of come together and we try to figure out a solution, because we talk about it all the time, how journalism and reporters are the watchdogs of democracy. And if we're not out here to be the watchdogs for democracy, things can kind of run amok. It's really important that there's news organizations in town to hold people accountable. And, I'm not saying I'm going to be the one to solve the problem, but I definitely think with the skills I've learned on the job and what I'll learn in graduate school, I think that I can go forward and provide some good insight to other local reporters. And one really cool thing about the program I'm joining is a lot of the professors research local news, and their knowledge is based in how to make rural news better. So hopefully that's what I'll be doing. Obviously, I'll be learning a lot. So who knows? In 2 years, when my program's finished, I could be an expert in environmental journalism or food journalism. Who knows? We'll see. But I'm very grateful for my time here at Wise and for Rusty and Mason. And just as a word to the Cherryville community, I really think that y'all have a great organization here who's bringing you good and truthful news. And I know that my replacement will be, I hope, better than me. I think I did a really great job, but I hope that every person who comes into Wise News is an even better reporter, an even better person than the one that came before, because that's what you need for a company to grow. So I think that y'all are going to kill it in the future. I think you're killing it now. And I'm really looking forward to staying subscribed and seeing what kind of stuff y'all get into.
Well, we're like a Netflix. Cherryville's like a Netflix miniseries. The stories just fall in our laps,
Yeah.
It's been interesting. It's just some interesting things.
Oh, yeah.
Which you think it's just a sleepy town with nothing going on.
Ain't no such thing.
Yeah. And we haven't reported on everything, but it's just a lot of, when you think things won't get any crazier, they do. I'll just put it at that.
Yes, that is definitely a good way to put it.
Well, we appreciate all your hard work. We wish you well.
Thank you.
Down in sunny Florida.
Yeah, hurricane season. Yay.
Yeah.
Hey, once you get on camera down there, you won't have to worry about the whole reflecting light thing.
Yeah, shoot us a video. A remote reporter.
Yeah, if anything crazy happens, I'll send y'all footage.
Well, that's Who Gives a Hoot number 12. And this will be Grace's last one. We'll send her off. And I'm Rusty Wise.
I'm Mason Beam.
And for the last time, I'm Grace Smith.
Till you see us again, like, subscribe, and Mason's going to tell us how to do all that.
Okay, so right below the video, if you haven't subscribed already, please go and click that button for us. It helps us out more than you know. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers. We've gained about 150 in the last month, which is some really good growth. But if you've already clicked that subscribe button, there's one more button I want you to press. I want you to go down below and hit that notification bell. That'll let you know as soon as a video comes out. Also, if you're looking for more places to find your news, while we're looking, there might not be as many articles coming out, but you can also subscribe to our website, wisenewsnetwork.com, for an immediate email notification once we release an article or anything that goes onto the website. And then otherwise, if you just want to stay up to date, you can find us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, which is now X. I guess I'll finally call it X for the first time. And any of those places, you can stay up to date with what we're doing. And, you know, also any of those places, you can comment back, let us know what you want to see. I know that we get quite a few comments through our email about people sending us things going to cover, but we read everywhere. We keep up to date with everything. Don't think we're not watching just because we're not commenting back. We can't get in the middle of you guys having an argument underneath a Lotta post.
Yeah, and we may not cover the same event twice.
Yeah.
You know, we may cover it this year, may skip a year, so we may not cover events every time they happen.
Yes.
And it's not nothing against the event. It's just we may not cover it every time.
Yes.
But if any stories you'd like to hear, let us know.
Definitely.
Well, stay tuned for more. See you later.